This gives Israel control of more than half of Gaza, including most agricultural land and the border crossings with Egypt. It means that Gaza could undergo the fate of the West Bank. Israel seems to be in no mood to let go of area out of its genuine security concerns. Now, the Guardian report states, 1. Yellow line is the new border. It serves as a forward defensive line. It is a line of operational control. The chief of staff also said, we have operational control over extensive part of the Gaza Strip and we will remain on those defense lines. And according to an English language transcript of this remark provided by the military spokesperson, it confirms this. So what is the net result? Net result is a truncated Gaza. Palestinians have been forced out of the eastern portion of Gaza. Roughly 2 million Gazans live in a narrow coastal zone, which is on the left, if you can see. The new commitment contradicts Trump's ceasefire agreement. The ceasefire agreement was signed in October. Israel had said that they would not annex Gaza. Trump's 20-point plan commits the Israeli military to progressively hand over Palestinian territory to an international security force until they have withdrawn completely from Gaza, barring a small security perimeter by the border. The ceasefire agreement links the departure of Israeli forces to the demilitarization of Hamas without laying out a mechanism or a time frame for that to happen. A UN resolution passed last month authorized the creation of an international security force, but not a single country has committed troops to stand it up. The Israeli army has built new concrete outposts along the yellow line to fortify its position and declare it a lethal boundary. I'm joined by Yanki Faber, senior journalist in the Orthodox community of Israel. He joins me from Tel Aviv. So my question is this the new reality of Gaza, whereby Israel, for its genuine security concern, has to be inside what used to be, to say, Gaza?
Well, you know, there is one more hostage left in Gaza. He was a police officer. His name is Ron Gouili. He's the last hostage that is dead, of course. He's buried somewhere in Gaza, and Hamas and Jihad, the Islamic Jihad, they say they don't find him. They need more time, and they need more equipment, and they just, you know, this is what the excuse. So Israel is putting a lot of pressure on them, and Israel is saying, well, okay, we're not going to move to the next stage unless you give us back the body. So what the chief of staff said, that this is the new border, I think, and this is what some other Israeli experts say, that once the last hostage will be back, then we will see that Israel is going on to the next stage, and the next stage means that Israel is leaving Gaza completely. So what the chief of staff said is basically to put pressure on Hamas and tell them, well, if we don't see the last hostages back, we're not going to leave. So, but Israel is not going to stay where the yellow line is now. It's like, you know, controlling 50% of Gaza. This is something that Israel will never do for a long term.
Okay. How are you, Itai? Joining me from Haifa, Israel. He's non-resident senior fellow N7 Initiative, the Atlantic Council. A very warm welcome to you. Good to have you on my show. This has been reported by Guardian. So my question to you is this line going to become permanent out of the security concerns? Because the earlier perimeter was right on the border and it collapsed when the Hamas attacked Israel.
Yes, well, you have to differentiate. First of all, good to be here again. Haven't seen you for a while. I have to say, what the chief of staff said, he said to the soldiers, it's important to keep the morale up and tell them you're doing something important. So let's put this aside. In a democracy, those who make the decisions are the politicians, the elected politicians, and they're the one who will determine where the border will be in the end. Currently, Israel has pledged and is following the Trump plan, and we are now still in phase A. A lot of pressure to move to phase B, which will happen once all hostages are returned. As the previous commentators said, there's still one that has not been returned. But when we move into phase B, Israel has committed to withdraw from the yellow line. There is going to be another perimeter. It's not going to be the line of October 7th, but it's also not going to be the yellow line. Israel does not wish to control this area. It has no advantage in doing so besides having a lot of military forces. And therefore, the new line that has been agreed probably in phase B is going to be a much narrower line, which is main concern is assuring security and for the Jewish towns and villages which are in the Gaza envelope, so they do not get attacked. So I think that Israel is still committed to the Trump plan. We have to see that the terrorist organizations in Gaza are committed also and will keep their part. But once they do, talks about phase B will start, and then we will see Israel move back and keep a much smaller area of Gaza.
Itai, it's very rare that any military deployment, if it has to do with the internal security, it rarely changes, No country will compromise with its own sovereignty and national security. If that line is going to create a security for Israeli population, then it stays there. I mean to say, that's the logic of security. It doesn't change.
Certainly. Sadly, I don't have a map to draw to your viewers, but you can make an imaginary line. We have currently on the screen, they can see. So if we look at the north, Israel is probably going to keep a line in the north. This is a line to begin with, which had Israeli settlements that were dismantled when Israel withdrew unilaterally from the Gaza Strip. So I'm assuming that we will keep some area there, not very big. As you can see, the line is not far from the border, but there will be a line probably there. We will see in the northeast, we will also see some area kept, then a narrow line along the border, and then again towards the south, with a big question being around both the Philadelphia line, which is the line that separates Egypt. And remember, Gaza had a border with Egypt, as opposed to what people thought. And this line, which is called Philadelphia line, Israel will most likely want to keep controlling because that was used to smuggle the arms into Gaza, and then the Rafah crossing. So this will remain a question, in my opinion. But in the end, currently the yellow line was drawn also to put pressure on Hamas and to not make Israel withdraw completely if they need again to step into Gaza, because Hamas does not keep the bargain, does not dismantle the arms that it's committed to, then Israel will not need to restart again. But this is in no way Israel's intention to keep those lines. Those lines were not drawn based on security, but more on a geostrategic vis-a-vis Hamas. So that's the reason for the current line. It's not the line that Israel needs.
But Mr. Faber, my question to you is very simple. There are a lot of ifs and buts to this line. But the fact of the matter is that there is lack of one, international consensus and an international commitment. If the entire area has to be, in a way demilitarized and the population have to return, the ceasefire agreement also entailed other countries to join in. Not a single country has come out to help Israel that way, to provide some sort of logistics. Not one, despite UN resolution.
Well, yesterday I read that Italy wants to send soldiers, but and Turkey is putting a lot of pressure to be involved in the international foreign, forces that are going to be in Gaza. Well, at the moment, nobody wants to go into Gaza because everybody is afraid of Hamas. Hamas said very clearly today and yesterday, they're not going to let any foreign forces to be in Gaza, only at the border. And so it's basically, people talk a lot, but I don't see any country would risk their soldiers and send them into Gaza, where half of Gaza is destroyed, the other half has a lot of bombs that haven't been exploded and they're very dangerous. Yes. And I don't see how it's going to happen. Probably, and maybe Netanyahu doesn't like it, and maybe some other ministers don't like it, but the Palestinian Authority will eventually control in some way Gaza, because nobody wants to do it.
Do you think that if other countries don't come in, it will be extremely difficult for Israel to pull back, because Hamas is still there? They have not demilitarized. They have not given up their weapons. The leadership is still in some of the West Asian countries. Well,
Hamas keeps saying, they keep changing their mind every single day, but only in the way they speak. They will never ever let Gaza be controlled under somebody else. If they have weapon, if they don't have weapon, maybe they will say, okay, we'll send our weapon, we'll give our weapons to the Palestinian Authority, they should have control over it. Hamas will never let anybody control Gaza. They will fight till the last guy who holds a Kalashnikov, and Israel knows it. So, and also many things that the Israeli politicians are saying is because there is very soon Israel is going to go on election, so everybody wants to be the one that he knows what to do, and he can do the best how to sort out the situation in Gaza. Israel knows deeply inside that Hamas will stay in power. The only thing that Israel will try to do, that Hamas will not have the same power that they had before 7th of October. And in this particular issue, they're doing well. You know, Israel is still blowing up many tunnels. Israel is still killing many terrorists. Israel knows that Hamas is going to stay controlling Gaza unless something big is going to happen and the Palestinian Authority will take over.
Are we looking at some timeline for this line to shift back to its original position? How long do you think that this yellow line is going to be there? Your estimate.
You have to look at two timelines. One was a designated timeline, and that was according to progress. So yes. Essentially, as soon as Hamas delivers the last body that it is still holding, them or someone else under their control, at that point, negotiations on phase B have to start. The problem, as Yankee just mentioned, is that we are looking at a catch-22 here, because on one hand, yes, we need foreign forces to come in and take over. On the other hand, we have our friends in Hamas who will not relinquish their arms. So in the beginning they said they will, now they're saying they won't. No country within its right mind will send its soldiers to start combating, to take the weapon out of Hamas without their consent. We see what's happening in Lebanon as an example. Hezbollah had committed to surrender arms, but they are not doing it, and the Lebanese government does not have the power and maybe the will, understandably, to get into a full-fledged war with Hezbollah to make them keep their commitment. So who is going to send soldiers? So we've seen a few countries who said they were willing to send soldiers, Indonesia and Azerbaijan and Turkey once, but I think that until we see a full commitment from Hamas to surrender arms, then this will not happen, because no country, as you said, is that fond of war or of Israel that is going to risk its own soldiers to start into a bloody bath. And of course, you know, you're talking about a very complicated scenario. We saw the American army in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and despite all criticism against Israeli and every life lost, still Israel was considered as an army, a very moral and careful army. And if another army now starts being among civilians and suddenly shot at from among civilians, we don't know how they will react. So nobody wants to get into this very problematic scenario, and unless someone manages to force Hamas to relinquish arms, I don't think we will see, and then yes, we will for some time be in kind of a stagnant position. We will see the Americans trying to build on, let's say, the Israeli side of the yellow line, areas of shelter, start to do maybe some new developments there, get Gazans to move over to those areas, and then yes, this yellow line may be there for longer than we thought, and also another round of fighting may start if there's no way out.
Thank you both of you for providing that perspective about the yellow line. Why is it there? When will it change? But the bottom line is that Hamas needs to demilitarize, and Hamas needs to be finished as a terrorist force. I think that's the bottom line where all three of us agree. Thank you. This was on point 2, but on point 3, we will talk about Saudi Arabia allowing alcohol to be consumed by the rich and the diplomats. But after a short break.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा से लोन लेना एक मास्टर स्ट्रोक है।
25 लाख का हॉस्पिटल बिल है, कितने पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे?
पैसों की चिंता आप मत कीजिए पापा।
मैम, सर का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम अप्रूव हो गया है।
आप
पॉलिसी बाजार
पर 0 GST के साथ अब 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ